Let me take you into a space that most people run from. A space where toxic energy doesn't just fester, it transforms. Right now, we're living in a world that's saturated with energy, some radiant, some grounded, but much of it toxic. And I've seen it firsthand. People walking through life like ticking emotional bombs, carrying resentment, judgment, shame, rage all packed into the body like spiritual landmines. But what if I told you that you don't need weeks of healing, years of self-help, or endless therapy sessions to start shifting that? What if I told you that in just 1 minute, yes, 60 seconds, you could take that toxic energy and flick it into something powerful, alchemical, and deeply embodied? Most people think healing is about getting rid of the bad stuff. But that's a lie we've been sold by systems that profit off our fear. True transformation doesn't mean removing your shadow, it means integrating it. It means learning how to shift toxic energy into shadow vibration. What's the difference? Toxic energy is unconscious, reactive, and self-destructive. Shadow vibration is conscious, embodied, and transformational. When you shift into shadow vibration, you're not suppressing your darkness, you're owning it, channeling it, and alchemizing it into power. And here's the wild part. The shift doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't even have to be peaceful. It just has to be real. So let's begin by understanding the mechanics of this shift before we get into the exact practice. Toxic energy is not evil. It's unprocessed. It's the residue of unspoken truth, unmet needs, and unresolved pain. It builds up in the body like smoke in a sealed room. You feel it as anxiety, anger, gut tension, a racing mind, tight shoulders, or that sick feeling in your chest that you can't quite explain. And society teaches you to ignore it, to smile through it, to meditate it away, to spiritually bypass it. But that doesn't work, because your body is wiser than your ego, and it remembers everything. So here's the paradigm shift. Instead of trying to calm the storm, you become the eye of it. You don't run from the toxic charge, you invite it, you meet it. You breathe it into your bones, not to be consumed by it, but to transmute it. Now here's the secret sauce, the 1-minute technique that no one talks about because it's too raw for mainstream spirituality. But it works. Every time. Start by stopping. Not metaphorically, literally stop. Sit down. Stand still. Pause whatever you're doing. You need to become still enough to feel the truth underneath the noise. Then inhale sharply through your nose. Not a soft breath, a warrior's breath, a breath that claims space. Pull it in like you're calling your power back from every moment you've ever been silenced, shamed, or betrayed. Hold. Feel the fire rise. That's your toxic energy gathering. That's your body preparing to release. Now exhale with sound. A sound that doesn't care if it's ugly. A growl. A sigh. A roar. A sob. Whatever your body demands to release.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
You've just initiated a shift, but don't stop there. Now bring your awareness to the place in your body that feels the most charged. It might be your chest, your gut, your throat. Place your hand there, not gently, with presence. Press into it. Let your body know you're here. You're not abandoning it. You're not rejecting the pain. You're honoring it. Now speak to that part of you out loud or silently. Say, I see you. I hear you. I won't leave you. You are safe to release. And what happens next is pure alchemy. That pain, that anger, that toxicity, it starts to move. It writhes. It breathes. It shifts, because it's no longer being ignored. And energy that is seen, felt, and honored becomes shadow vibration, the raw, primal, untamed power of your unclaimed self. Suddenly, what felt like heaviness becomes fuel. What felt like chaos becomes clarity. You feel more you than you've ever felt. Not because you got rid of your darkness, but because you owned it. This is the real work. This is the medicine no one teaches because it doesn't sell as neatly as a 10-step morning routine. We've been trained to fear our own power, to fear the parts of us that don't smile politely. But the truth is, your shadow is not your enemy, it's your initiation. And every toxic emotion is a gateway to deeper embodiment, if you choose to stop resisting it. Now let me ask you something powerful. What if the tension you feel isn't a sign you're broken, but an invitation into your next level of embodiment? Because here's the truth that will change your life. Your shadow doesn't block your light. It reveals it. Your rage shows you where your boundaries live. Your grief reveals where your heart still loves. Your fear shows you where your courage is waiting to awaken. And every time you shift toxic energy into shadow vibration, you reclaim a piece of yourself that you were taught to exile. So the next time you feel triggered, instead of spiraling or suppressing, try this practice. 1 minute, 1 breath, 1 act of radical ownership. Do it in the car, in the bathroom, on your lunch break. No crystals, no candles, just you, your breath, and your body. That's all you need to alchemize toxicity into power, because you are not fragile. You are formidable. And the world doesn't need more people pretending to be light. It needs people who've integrated their darkness and can hold space for truth without flinching. Most of us have been taught to fear the very parts of ourselves that hold the most power. We've been told to reject our anger, suppress our grief, deny our envy, and silence our desire. We've been taught that to be spiritual is to be calm, soft-spoken, always positive, and endlessly forgiving. But let me tell you something that will shake the foundation of everything you thought you knew about healing. Your shadow isn't your catalyst. It's not the part of you to exile. It's the part of you to embody, because within your shadow lies the raw, unfiltered truth of who you are. And the moment you stop fighting it, the moment you stop labeling it as bad or toxic, is the moment you begin to access a kind of power that no external system can ever give you. The shadow is not darkness in the way we've been conditioned to believe. It's not evil. It's not demonic. It's not destructive unless you refuse to meet it. The real danger isn't the shadow itself, it's the act of suppressing it. Repression is what creates toxicity. When you push your truth down, it doesn't disappear, it festers. It gets louder. It turns into addiction, projection, anxiety, depression, and emotional volatility. That's when you start snapping at people you love, doubting your worth, or sabotaging the very blessings you prayed for. Not because you're weak, but because you're disconnected from a vital part of yourself. The shadow is your unclaimed power. It's your boundaries, your raw, emotional truth. It's the instinct that rises when someone crosses your line. It's the passion that fuels your purpose. It's the grief that proves you loved deeply. It's the rage that says, I matter. And when you stop demonizing those emotions, when you start seeing them as messengers instead of enemies, they transform. They become guides. And this is the deepest spiritual secret. Your emotions are not obstacles to your enlightenment. They are portals into it. Now, let's get practical. The reason the 1-minute shadow shift works is because it bypasses the mental story. You don't need to analyze where the emotion came from. You don't need to explain it. You don't need to justify your reaction. You just need to feel it fully, without shame. That's the key. Because the shadow doesn't respond to logic, it responds to presence. The moment you stop trying to fix it and instead meet it with radical acceptance, the energy begins to move. And energy that moves is energy that heals. Let's say you feel jealousy rise up. Instead of shaming yourself and saying, I shouldn't feel this, try this, pause, breathe deep and say, jealousy, I see you. I honor you. What do you want me to know? And then listen, not with your mind, but with your body. What you'll often find is that jealousy isn't here to make you feel small, it's here to remind you of your own desire. It's a compass. It says, this is what I want to experience too. And when you shift it into shadow vibration, it becomes ambition, drive, vision. Do you see how powerful that is? Or maybe you feel rage. You're boiling inside. You want to scream. Society says, calm down. Be polite. Don't be dramatic. But your soul says, no, let me speak. So you sit. You breathe. You growl if you have to. You punch a pillow. You scream into your hands. And as you do, that rage becomes clarity. It tells you where your boundaries have been violated. It tells you where your no was not honored. And that clarity becomes fuel. It becomes leadership. It becomes the fire that lights up your mission. This is what it means to shift toxic energy into shadow vibration. You stop resisting what is, and you reclaim it. You stop judging your messy, wild, holy humanness, and you worship it. Not in a self-indulgent way, but in a sacred, grounded way. You start walking through the world not as someone trying to be good, but as someone who is whole. Someone who is no longer afraid of their own depth. And let me ask you something that most people are too afraid to ask themselves. What would your life look like if you stopped apologizing for your power? Not your performance, not your persona, but your true, unfiltered, shadow-illuminated power. That's where this path leads. When you turn toward your shadow instead of away from it, you become sovereign. You stop outsourcing your worth. You stop waiting for permission. You start making decisions that are aligned with your soul, not your trauma. And ironically, that's when people feel your light the most. Not because you're trying to be light, but because you've become real. And realness is magnetic. So the next time toxic energy floods your system, remember, it's not here to destroy you. It's here to deliver you back to the parts of yourself you forgot you were allowed to love. We live in a world that moves fast, but beneath the surface our bodies are ancient. Our nervous systems haven't evolved to keep up with notifications, traffic, pressure, overstimulation, and emotional suppression. Every single day, our systems absorb more than they can process. And when we don't allow that energy to move, it doesn't just vanish, it stores. It lodges in our jaw, our chest, our gut, our shoulders. It distorts our decisions. It colors our perception. It dulls our instincts. And over time, we start living not from our soul, but from our survival system. We react instead of respond. We numb instead of feel. We retreat instead of rise. But what if I told you there's a way to begin breaking that pattern in just 60 seconds? Not as a quick fix, but as a doorway, a ritual, a sacred pause that tells your nervous system you're safe now. You can release, you can rewire. Because here's the truth, your nervous system doesn't speak English. It speaks sensation. It speaks rhythm. It listens to movement, breath, tone, and presence. And when you speak its language, even for a moment, it listens. It softens. It recalibrates. This 60-second ritual is deceptively simple, but don't let that fool you. It's ancient in its wisdom and potent in its impact. It works because it interrupts the loop of reactivity, the loop of self-betrayal, the loop of bracing for life instead of meeting it. And when you do it consistently, something miraculous happens. You begin to shift from a state of chronic contraction into a state of embodied power. Here's how it begins. You feel the surge: anger, fear, sadness, jealousy, confusion. It spikes. Your chest tightens. Your breath shortens. That's the signal. Instead of running from it, you lean in. You say to yourself, I'm not abandoning myself this time. And then you stop. You close your eyes. You put your hand on your body wherever it's most alive. Maybe your heart, maybe your belly, maybe your throat. And you breathe. Deep, slow, intentional. Now here's the key. As you inhale, you imagine pulling all of your scattered energy back into your body. Every part of you that's been performing, pleasing, defending, hiding, call it back. With each inhale, you reclaim yourself. And with each exhale, you release the tension, the story, the static. You don't need to fix anything. You just need to feel. Then you add sound. This is where the magic amplifies. Your nervous system responds to vibration. So hum, moan, sigh, growl, whisper a mantra. Speak your truth. Let your voice vibrate the emotion out of the tissue. This is not about being dramatic, it's about being honest. And when your nervous system hears your voice combined with breath and touch, it says, oh, we're safe now. We can let go. Now, open your eyes. Look around. Anchor into your environment. Name 3 things you see. Feel your feet. Feel your spine. You've just interrupted the trauma loop. You've just shifted from unconscious reactivity into conscious embodiment. In 60 seconds, you've reminded your body that you're not stuck in the past, you're here now. And here is where your power lies. This ritual doesn't just regulate your system, it reclaims your sovereignty. Because every time you do it, you send a message to your body that says, I'm listening. You matter. You are not a problem to be solved, you are a wisdom to be heard. And over time, your body begins to trust you. It stops bracing. It starts responding. And that's when your real power begins to surface, not the kind that needs to shout or dominate, but the kind that radiates, the kind that comes from presence, the kind that says, I am safe in myself, no matter what's happening around me. Let me ask you something that could change your life. What if your power isn't something you earn, but something you remember the moment you create safety within? Because so many of us are chasing confidence, clarity, purpose, but we're doing it on top of dysregulation. We're trying to manifest from a nervous system that doesn't feel safe. And that's why it doesn't stick. That's why the affirmations feel hollow. That's why the vision board doesn't land, because your body doesn't believe it. But when you embody safety, when you anchor into presence, your entire field shifts. You become magnetic. You speak and people feel you. You walk into a room and the energy rearranges around you. Not because you're trying, but because you're aligned. This 60-second ritual isn't a hack. It's a practice, a sacred technology. And every time you do it, you rewire your nervous system to hold more truth, more emotion, more power. You stop collapsing. You stop leaking energy. You stop outsourcing your intuition. And you start living from the deepest part of yourself. So when the wave hits you, and it will, don't run. Don't numb. Don't perform. Pause. Breathe. Feel. Sound. Anchor. That's the ritual. That's the doorway. That's how you return to the throne of your body and say, I'm home. There's a point on the spiritual path where something incredible happens, not because you've finally figured everything out, but because you've stopped resisting yourself. You've faced your emotions instead of suppressing them. You've stopped trying to be perfect and started becoming whole. You've embraced your light, yes, but you've also bowed to your shadow. That's when you become something rare. Something the world deeply needs right now. Untouchable. Not hardened or closed off. Not numb or indifferent, but energetically sovereign. Immune to the chaos around you. Not because the chaos disappears, but because you've stopped identifying with it. You see, most people are like energetic sponges. They walk into a room and immediately absorb everything. Other people's moods, projections, fears, judgments, all of it sticks. Why? Because they're not anchored in their own field. They haven't claimed their shadow. So when someone throws shade, it lands. When someone tries to manipulate, it seeps in. When someone projects their unhealed pain, it hooks. And suddenly, you're not feeling your own truth, you're swimming in someone else's. That's not sensitivity. That's leakage. And it happens when you haven't integrated the places within you that still believe you deserve to be attacked, abandoned, misunderstood, or shamed. But here's where shadow alchemy becomes your shield. When you've done the work to meet your own darkness, no one can use it against you. When you've owned your rage, your grief, your shame, your desire, when you've made peace with the parts of you that once terrified you, there's nothing left for the world to weaponize. You become unshakable, not because you've escaped the human experience, but because you've finally embodied it. Let me give you an example. Imagine someone tries to shame you for being too emotional. If you haven't met your shadow, that criticism might sting. You might spiral into self-doubt. You might shut down or lash out. But if you've already made peace with your emotional depth, if you've sat with your tears, honored your sensitivity, and seen it as sacred, then the attack doesn't land. You might even smile because you see what they can't. You're not devastated by the judgment. You're free from it. This is the deeper layer of shadow alchemy. It's not just about feeling your feelings. It's about reclaiming the parts of you that others taught you to fear. It's about walking back into the rooms where you abandoned yourself and saying, I'm here now. I've got you. And when you do that over and over, you build something stronger than armor. You build resonance. A frequency that says, I know who I am. I know what I carry. And I'm not available for distortion. That's how you become immune. Not because you've become invincible, but because you've become honest. And honesty is magnetic. Honesty is healing. Honesty is invulnerable because it doesn't hide. And most of the energetic attacks we experience, whether psychic, emotional, or spiritual, only land when they find a place to stick. But when your shadow is integrated, there are no loose ends, no hidden guilt, no secret shame. Just you, whole and radiant in your rawness. So, let me ask you something that goes deeper than protection. What if you didn't need to defend yourself from the world because you finally stopped abandoning yourself within it? Because real safety isn't about building walls. It's about building capacity. The capacity to feel, to see, to hold, to cleanse energy through presence instead of panic. And that's what shadow alchemy trains you for. It doesn't just make you more powerful, it makes you more available for life. You're not afraid of discomfort. You're not thrown by intensity. You're not seduced by illusion. Because you've met your own depths, and now there's nothing left to fear. You don't need to be perfect to be untouchable. You just need to be true. And when you're true, you stop attracting lessons through pain. because you're finally living from integration. That's what the world feels when they meet someone who's done this work. They feel peace, but not the soft kind. The kind of peace that's forged in fire. The kind of peace that holds the storm without flinching. The kind of peace that doesn't need to prove itself, because it is itself. So the next time you feel under energetic attack, whether from a person, a thought, or a force, don't react. Don't collapse. Don't fight. Return to yourself. Drop into your body. Breathe into your shadow. Speak your truth. Claim your presence. Because in that moment, you don't just protect your field, you expand it. And the more you expand, the less the world can diminish you. You are not here to be safe. You are here to be sovereign. You are not here to be liked. You are here to be real. You are not here to be light only. You are here to be whole. And when you embody your shadow, you become the one thing that no energy can touch, fully awakened, fully alive, and fully free.